Welcome to the Wake.Show. Good morning. I'm Fisher along with Jonny Torres. Take two. Happy Friday morning. As you see, we got Roy already in the studio with us. We're going to talk some movies here in just 1 second. Get the stuff you should know coming up after just 8 o'clock or a little after 8 o'clock this morning. And we missed, well, hell, Roy, go ahead and grab your microphone there, sir. Right there on the floor.
This is my microphone?
Yep, that's your microphone there. There you go. You just gotta
feel like Elvis.
Yeah, you croon it up. You croon it up from that chair there. Roy here at Bake More Pies is our movie expert enthusiast. And one day will be a big name director, writer, producer. And so we just want to take advantage of you right now while we still have you.
Yeah.
You know, in your younger days, your younger years, before you get all famous on us. But you got a couple movies for us today.
I have a few movies. I haven't done a movie review in a while.
No. Because
Last Jedi was the last one.
Right. And Jumanji we were supposed to talk about last week.
Yes.
So we'll talk a little bit about that. But movies opening up this weekend, All the Money in the World.
Yes.
Molly's Game.
Saw that last night.
Molly's Game?
Molly's Game. Saw that last night.
Which one is that one?
That's the one with Jessica Chastain. That's the true story of Molly Bloom, who, and I've never heard of her, but she ran a underground poker ring with celebrities and high profile.
Okay.
You know, millionaires, billionaires.
Oh, so this is based on a true story?
Based on a true story. And what's funny is, and that I didn't know this, was what she was doing was completely legal.
She, as so-called poker princess.
Yes. So her story is, and what I found it interesting was that she was making thousands of dollars, but she was doing all legally because she wasn't taking any cut from the pot. Yeah, any rake.
We call it a rake. I mean,
rake.
Gamblers call it a rake.
Okay. I should know this because I did camera work for the World Poker Tour.
All right. So you should know what a rake is then. All right.
But I don't.
So back then, when she was doing this, because what a rake is basically, you know, as you're betting, before they pay out or as they go, they pull a certain percentage of that money out of the pot and that goes to the house. Yeah. So that the rake is, and I guess it is a terminology I always assumed anyway, because it's kind of like a rake. You reach into the middle of the pile and just pull out some of those, you know, like you're raking leaves. But you're saying that's not how she made her money?
No, she made it, I believe, all in tips. So these deep pocket people and these high profile celebrities would tip her thousands of dollars a night. I mean, she would do this basically seven days a week. So she would make 6 figures pretty much
a week. Holy crap! All right, so tell us about the movie then without giving away, because I want to know the ending. I guess I could always just Wikipedia it because it's a true story.
It's hard to talk about like true stories if people have heard it, and for me not to spoil, or anybody not to spoil it,
right?
Because it's like, okay.
So do they pop her in the end? Well, I guess I can't. You can't tell me.
No, but here's some facts about it. This is Aaron Sorkin's first directorial debut, and Aaron Sorkin is primarily a screenwriter who did A Few Good Men,
right? The
Social Network. He wrote for Newsroom, which is fantastic.
I only watched the first season of Newsroom.
I think that's all you need.
I think so too, but yeah, it was a brilliant season of television.
Yes. He did The West Wing. So he's known to be a screenwriter. And he does a lot of dialogue.
Real big on dialogue, yeah.
Yeah, big on dialogue. This one is doesn't fall short of his game. Like Aaron Sorkin is like still on top with screenwriting. It's non-linear, so like it jumps around all the time, which makes, I think, for a more interesting story. But with the dialogue and the information, there's parts in the middle that kind of lagged. But because of her actual story, and you're going, how does she get out? Like, because the FBI raids her.
Okay.
And so it's almost like a mystery sort of thing where they're like, well, you know, like the FBI is wanting to imprison her or give her her freedom back for pretty much dropping dimes on like high-profile names.
All right, so she would have to turn into a snitch and try to sell out those people that are coming in, giving her hundreds of thousands of dollars every week.
So the stories between her past, her lawyer's work trying to get her off, off prison, and then the FBI is trying to get her in prison.
How much poker action is in this movie? Because I do enjoy good poker action in a movie, but mainly because you can't wait for that moment where you get to pick apart Hollywood as they're trying to depict poker, and they rarely ever one of the most famous poker scenes of all time is Rounders.
Yeah,
going back to Matt Damon and
Ed Norton.
I'm sorry, Ed Norton.
Yeah, Matt Damon and Ed Norton.
Oh, okay, and Ed Norton is in it, and one of the scenes is that the tell of this guy is that every time he has a good hand, and it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but basically every time he has a good hand, he goes to his Oreo cookie or something ridiculous like that. And
that's a big tell.
Those kind of that's when, if you're not a poker player and you watch movies, you would think that those are the tells you are looking for if you were a poker player, like these big and those aren't the tells you're looking for at all. Oh, what are you looking for? A twitch of the eye? Sometimes a twitch of the eye, but it's less about physical tells on people and more about betting patterns.
Yeah.
As sitting down when you're playing poker, you sit there and you're grinding it out. Poker isn't just a game. You sit down, and play it for an hour. You're playing all day or all night.
Pretty much.
And what you're doing is you're sitting there around the table of other people and you're picking up on their habits, on their betting. And so all of a sudden, when something seems different, that person let out in a way they just haven't, that's when you take notice. Now, that doesn't mean you know exactly what's going on. You just know that something's going on.
Yeah.
You don't know which end. So, but anyway, so how much poker action is there in the movie?
Actually, quite a lot. I want to say 3/4 of the movie.
Oh, wow.
But not about the game of poker, but so it's not like who's going to win this hand, who's going to get to the final table, who's doing this. It's more of her business side of running those poker
So
games.
is the poker like the zombies or the walkers in The Walking Dead, where the poker is in the background? It's the backdrop of everything?
I wouldn't even say it's the backdrop because it's critical to the part. Well,
Okay.
I guess zombies or
Kinda.
walkers are critical. Not anymore because Walking Dead's falling apart and all
Thank
of
you.
it.
Can we talk about can we talk about that?
I saw the first episode of this season, the current season, and I couldn't watch anymore.
I'm trying to remember what the first episode was this season when they came back from break.
Okay, so Jesus was like who was trying to kill these the saviors, and then Jesus was like, "Oh, you can't kill them, or otherwise we become like them."
Oh,
I'm like, but that's the
And so they
reason
took
you went into the savior's compound was to kill them.
You want to eradicate them, and now he's trying to save like 30, 40 people, and say, no, we can't kill all these people. We got to put them in.
I think it was Morgan. Morgan wanted to kill them.
Yeah. Well, okay, we're not going to get too deep into this, but I'll just say I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think after the they need to wrap this up, and I know that they don't plan on wrapping it up anytime soon. I mean, it's just getting bigger. It's a huge cult hit, and it's only getting bigger. If you think about it, every time they go out to one of these Comic Cons and everything they do, they have people just swarming them, telling them this is the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, I don't know, it's taken a turn, and I'm not quite sure how to explain it to people. But I don't want to say I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm just ready for them to wrap it up.
I'm mentally checked out when somebody
Be careful.
Somebody
right.
left the show. And so that somebody was
The moral compass.
the moral compass. And I think they're trying to give a moral compass to somebody currently who hasn't had that history or hasn't had that characterization.
Although I will say this, the mid-season finale, is that what they call it?
I haven't even seen it.
Right.
I heard it. I heard what happens.
Amazing.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the first episode in at least a year that I was just like, oh, all right, there we go. That was a great episode from beginning to end.
Because the season finale of last season was like a big disappointment for me because I was like, that's not a cliffhanger. It doesn't make me want to figure out what's going to happen in season 8.
Right. All right, well, let's get back to some movies as we have Roy in the studio. Then we get back to stuff you should know, some of the news of the day.
So wrapping up Molly's Game.
All right.
If you're into like good, intense drama, it's a good movie to watch, especially for the acting and the performances. But I don't think it's going to win Best Picture. Jessica Chastain might get a nod for Best Actress. I don't think Idris Elba will get a nod. Aaron Sorkin will get a nod for screenwriting. That's about it.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Jumanji then.
I didn't like it.
No?
I didn't like it at all. And I love...
Did you want to?
I wanted to. Because I love Jack Black, I love The Rock, and I love Kevin Hart.
Okay.
And so I think the studios were really going, well, how do we get a big Christmas draw? Let's bring The Rock, Kevin Hart, and Jack Black in one movie. And I'm like, of course.
Those are heavy hitters, yeah.
Yeah, why not? It's going to be good. But
where does it fall apart?
For me, the first place was Jack Black. Jack Black, because he has a specific Nacho Libre kind of School of Rock humor that I think didn't come through because he was acting as a teenage girl. He did a good job acting as a teenage girl, and there are funny parts. I am not saying that Jumanji wasn't funny. I laughed quite more often than I thought I would. But overall, as a story, it's cookie cutter.
Yeah.
There's no I wonder what's going to happen next.
But it's a fun movie if you want to take your teenage kids to the movies or something like that, or your tween age kids.
Sure.
The family's going to have a good time watching this.
Yeah, the family will.
What about do you compare it at all to the original?
Yes. I think everybody will.
You have to.
Yeah.
All right. And so how does it stack up?
I mean, it's kind of hard to one up Robin Williams.
Right.
And this is, well, I guess it was
But
CG.
Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and The Rock all together can make, a half of Robin Williams.
Yeah. I mean, if it was between Jumanji and Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, I think I'd watch Jumanji on the big screen again first.
All right. Well, then obviously we've come a little ways technology-wise.
Yes. Which they're banking on, obviously. Advanced technology, they're going to make it about a video game. I mean, it's nothing where, it's not earth-shattering CGI. It's just good fun, I guess.
I was reading one article about this, and I guess there's a little, considering the times that we're living in when it comes to sexual harassment and women always having to play certain roles and this and that. They were like, well, look at Jumanji, another film where you have something like this. It's an action film. They're all running around the jungle, and what's the woman wearing? Little tiny shorts and a little tiny
They might
shirt.
have started. I think they started shooting this before all the harassment cases came out.
I bet you. I bet you they would have changed, made some different decisions.
They probably would.
Had they. But was it worth?
I got Movie Pass, so I got to watch it basically for free. So yes, it was worth my free 2 hours.
All right.
Worth.
So you're liking that one? Do you have? If you're giving it so
And
many?
I love The Rock. So The Rock, he's been my hero since he was in WWE.
Do you consider him a good actor though, or is it doesn't matter because his charisma is just so big?
I think the charisma's got a lot to do with it. I think the roles he takes cinematically don't require the best acting,
right.
But the TV show Ballers on HBO, he's actually quite good.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd be surprised. It's at first you're like, yeah, The Rock is actually quite...
And The Rock is acting.
Yeah. And you know who's good is also a wrestler from Tampa, Dave Bautista, who plays Drax, the green guy in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay. Oh, he's from Tampa?
Well,
or he lives here, he's got a place here, or something like that?
Since WWE's basically in Central Florida.
Everybody.
Those guys live here.
Right.
Yeah, they all live here. Chris Jericho lives here, all of them guys.
Another guy that I was very impressed with on the screen was John Cena?
Cena? Yeah.
In what's Amy Schumer's movie last year or the year before? Train Wrecked?
Yeah,
something like that, Train Wrecked.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that one?
No, I did not.
I was very impressed with his comedic role. I think that was John Cena, yeah.
He's coming up.
Yeah.
I've never been a big John Cena fan.
He's got a lot of charisma too.
Yeah.
And saw him on Jimmy Fallon, I think it was. And they were doing a Mad Libs game.
Yeah.
So this was all improvised. They're just having some fun with it, and I'm not going to do it justice. You'll just have to Google it. You're going to have to Google it yourself, and look up John Cena, Jimmy Fallon, Mad Libs, and so I couldn't believe just how witty, how quick on his feet, how smart in those moments he was. Now, I've had him on my shows in the past, and I should know better because, you know, we're sitting there joking with him on the phone that he could rap. He can freestyle rap. And we're like, well, go ahead and just make up a freestyle rap about us right now. And right there on the phone, John Cena just started rapping. And sure enough, you know, comes up with a cool rap, you know, for
that was his first gimmick when he went to
making up raps.
Yeah, so he was like a Marky Mark kind of persona when he first came into the WWE, which was fine because like every time he entered the ring, he had to do a freestyle rap. He had to talk trash about his competitor. But I think it got old like really quick. But if you want, like, who I'm impressed with is Dave Bautista, who, if you ever seen Blade Runner 2049.
No, right? I haven't seen it yet.
You have to see that, and especially if you love the original Blade Runner. But that's a guy who came from the wrestling background, and wrestling's obviously soap opera for majority men. So the acting is not high caliber. And most of his roles have been B-movie roles. The first time I paid attention to his abilities was Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because they gave him more, I guess, dialogue and comedy to do, and he actually pulled it off well. But the first scene in Blade Runner 2049, I was amazed. Like, that guy came like a long way, and it might be just because of the direction of the director. Denis Villeneuve is the director of Prisoners and Sicario and Arrival, so he's a great director, but he directed the hell out of Dave Bautista. He did an amazing job.
Any other movies you want to talk about today?
What did I watch? I watched The Greatest Showman, which is not the best story. It's pretty predictable.
The Greatest Showman, is that based on Ringling Brothers or
Barnum?
P.T. Barnum, rather?
P.T. Barnum. There's a lot of liberties because it's a musical, but they brought in contemporary music into it. I think it's actually, I liked it for the music alone. The story is
as soon as you said that, you know what movie popped in my head, which I hated? I think it was called A Knight's Tale. That was
with Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger.
It's not like that.
And so it's set in medieval times and all, but they cut to the stands and they're doing "We Are the Champions" or "We Will Rock You" or whatever it is, that kind of stuff.
It's not that drastic because it's closer to our generation than the Knights were.
Okay.
So it's not jarring to go, oh man, they're doing
so they're telling P.T. Barnum's story, but with modern music.
With modern music.
Why do they do that? I
don't know. This one works.
Okay.
For me, I feel if they didn't do that part, the modern music, I wouldn't have liked this at all.
Okay. Now, what's his face? Hugh Jackman is an amazing actor, singer.
He started in Broadway.
Is he carrying this movie? Is he the reason that this movie is good? Okay.
So P.T. actually, oh man. His acting ability here, like he's not gonna win an Oscar, even though he got nominated for a Golden Globe for his acting. I didn't think he did that great of a job. I don't think the story is earth shattering. I think it's very, like, all the critics say pretty much the same thing. It's not a fabulous movie, but what does stand out is the music. So the guys who won for La La Land also did this. Okay. So I would give it a shot if you have kids. I took my whole family for Christmas night to watch it, and I was quite impressed.
All right. And what was that one called again? The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman. What else did I see? I think that's it.
Well, Roy,
what other movies came out?
Well, while you're thinking about that, you got any New Year's Eve plans?
Yeah, I'm actually driving to Virginia Beach right after this.
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
good for you, man. Family? Just getting out of
Dodge. Extended
family. Getting out of Dodge for a little bit.
Yeah, I spent Thanksgiving in California, Christmas here, and then I'll do Virginia Beach on New
Good
Year's,
for you. I spent Thanksgiving here, Christmas here. New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve will be here. Well, Roy, it's always great to having you in.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. Roy, a good friend of ours here that works at Bakemore Pies and knows his stuff when it comes to cinema.
I should be watching All the Money in the World, which is interesting, next week. And that's the one where Kevin Spacey got replaced by Christopher Plummer.
Oh, speaking of which, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Johnny, one of the team names last night for trivia out at Masteries was
See you guys next year.
See you next year. One of the team names last night was Kevin Spacey's Youth Soccer Camp.
I love just the structure of the naming, right? Like even that in itself is brilliant because that's amazing. That is fantastic.
And it is one of the teams. They're actually friends of mine, Ian and Mackenzie, and I know that Ian has been sitting on this name for quite some time. And they brought out a great group last night with Tom and Colin and so. But what was funny is Mackenzie, his girlfriend, is the one that's closest to me. And so she's the one that brings up the sheet every time that I'm saying, Kevin Spacey's Youth Soccer Camp.
Right.
Well, I'm very curious because it was a packed house last night, a great crowd. And I was very curious in the reaction we were going to get the first time I said this because doing these trivia nights, you have no idea. I can't overstate how much I love doing these nights. But every now and again, somebody will turn in something like, I can't say that over the mic. We got to keep this somewhat family friendly, and if it's not family friendly, it better be innuendoed enough where little ones in the crowd wouldn't even know what we're talking about. You know what I mean? So when he brought that one up, I knew I was going to get a reaction, but I wasn't quite sure if it would be the gasps, the oohs, the ah, or people giggle, laughing.
Sure.
And so I say it the first time, and I would say it was 20% of the room laughed out loud. And about 80% of the room did one of those, one of those kind of things. And then somebody yelled, you know what the phrase is, right? Too soon?
Yeah.
Too soon?
Yeah, too soon.
Someone yells out, too early. Too early.
What?
You mean too soon, sir? Oh, yeah, too soon.
Oh, get rid of that person.
But that technically wasn't even the worst name of the night. The worst name of the night I couldn't put down. And the worst name of the night was Heads Down, Fins Up. That's the way we like to.
Oh.
And I was like, well, your team name will be Heads Down, Fins Up. And I thought maybe they were Miami Dolphins fans, but they weren't. They were huge parrot heads.
Oh.
They were, what the hell is his name? Jimmy Buffett fans.
I thought maybe they had a thing for dolphins.
Anyway, maybe they do. But speaking of Masteries, I will be back there on Sunday early, 6 o'clock. I'll be starting the music, and I'll be out of there by. Oh no, I guess last year I stayed till about 1 o'clock. I was going to say I'll be out of there by the ball drops at midnight. I'll be out of there at 12:15, but we went until about 1 o'clock. But yeah, it's Bad Prom is the theme. If you want to come out to the beach,
or
cool. If you already
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, Bad Prom. Last year they did Great Gatsby as a theme. This year it's going to be Bad Prom out of Masteries. What are you doing on New Year's Eve?
I haven't decided yet. That actually sounds really good. I really have no idea because I may or may not have I may or may not have my daughter for New Year's Eve.
Aww.
And then the question becomes, do I keep her up until midnight?
Yes. The answer is always yes.
To watch fireworks, or do I play it off just like any other night and have her go to bed at 8 o'clock?
I don't know. It's not, as a parent, if they're sleeping, I mean, that's gold.
Oh, yeah.
Don't wake them up to just scare the hell out of them.
Well, and the problem is that you pay for it the next day. I mean, you suffer the consequences the next day for them not getting enough sleep.
Oh, let her sleep.
And so her biological clock, I am almost certain, will wake her up at probably around 6:30 in the morning, regardless of what time she goes to bed. And then she'll be tired and cranky all day, and I'll be paying for it all day.
I think you answered your question. Do not wake her up. I was in my head because she's 2 years old. I'm thinking maybe just pull a Simba on her right there at 11:59. You just snatch her right out, just hold her up towards the television as the ball's dropping, like Simba, and then you put her back to bed. But you can't chance that kind of stuff. I'm not even a parent, but I'm pretty certain you can't chance that kind of stuff. Let's go ahead and get to stuff you should know, and then talk about some of the other events going on today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Wake.Show. Flurries in Florida, maybe. It is a long shot, but it's one of those things that's got the entire town in a Twitter this morning. It's possible, according to ABC Action News meteorologist Shay Ryan and Greg D. Although it is a long shot, there is a slight chance in Tampa Bay that Tampa Bay could see some snow next Thursday, January 4th. And we'll come back to this story here in a second. Like, all right, what has to align? What has to happen in order for this? But it's already, because you can't help it. You see something. I did the same thing. As soon as I saw that headline this morning, retweet, because you see something like that, and it just gets you excited. Apple will temporarily lower the price of replacing iPhone batteries, hoping to ease the backlash over its acknowledgement that it deliberately slowed down older model iPhones. The announcement, along with an apology, came less than 2 weeks after the company said that in order to prevent iPhones with aging batteries from drawing too much power and abruptly shutting down, it issued software updates to what they call smooth out the power flow. At least 12 people, including a child, were killed in a fire Thursday night at a 5-story apartment building in the Bronx. Mayor Bill de Blasio called it the worst fire tragedy in this city in at least a century. This will rank as one of the worst losses of life to a fire in many, many years, he said at a Thursday press conference. They are also expecting that number to go up too, because I guess there's still some people that are doing very, very badly in the hospital. Florida has joined a national program designed to improve mobile communications for first responders. I saw this story this morning and didn't even think that this would be an issue, that this is a thing that they have to deal with. FirstNet, all one word, will be solely used by those who work in law enforcement and emergency services. Currently, departments use their own digital and radio communication tools, making interagency communication difficult at times. Once FirstNet is rolled out, all first responders will communicate on this one network. And it's supposed to improve communications, especially during disasters and large event crisis. Meaning, so something like, happened out in Vegas, that Mandalay Bay, right. Where all of a sudden you have a horrible situation like that and people are hopping on their phones, or, another disaster, and you got 20,000 people in a place hopping on their phones, shooting off text, trying to, go live to show what's going on. Well, emergency responders are trying to use those same networks to communicate, and they can't. So this is hopefully going to help remedy that.
Well, I mean, if you remember 9/11,
no,
that's they had the same issue where, not only because of the loss of certain mobile towers or cell towers in New York City, but also because everyone was frantically trying to find loved ones and significant others and all that, the phone lines were jammed for hours. I mean, I remember, again, I was staying with a family in Queens when it happened, and it probably took me a little over an hour to finally get a call into my family down in Miami.
I was dating a girl at the time whose father was a tugboat captain, and he was in New York Harbor.
Was he part of that big water rescue?
No, but
or the big evacuation.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
But to your point, they couldn't get a hold of him all day. The entire day. It wasn't until like 3 or 4 in the afternoon because I was on the air. It was one of those things. All right, let's reminisce about 9/11. Going into the week.
We only talk about the positive, fun, bright stories.
Well, it's just such a powerful moment in so many people's lives, including mine. And, we can go down the path of, I remember this, I remember that, remember when, that you heard about. But, doing a morning show, stayed on the air to just keep, disseminating information. And I know that at the time, the girl that I was dating, she was obviously out of her mind, losing her wits because she couldn't get a hold of her dad. Well, the reason I'm bringing this up because this is the point that I finally cracked. This is back before I used to cry all the time. And Finally, her mother got a hold of me and said, could you please, because I knew she was listening to the radio, could you please say over the radio, because for some reason she couldn't get a hold of her own daughter, could you please say over the radio that her dad's fine? And I said, of course. So we go on, the next break, I go on, and I go to say that, and then boom, that was it. All the stress of the day, I held on to it all day long. I guess this was probably closer to about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, now that I think about it, 5 or 6. And that was it. As I go to say that, it just starts, my voice starts cracking.
Yeah.
And I go, we'll be back after this. Just hit a button, go to break, and then
That broke the seal.
Yeah, compose myself. Yeah, that was it. I was crying the rest of the time. But how the hell did we even get in this subject?
Well, we were talking about the first responders network. First net for first responders.
And next up is stuff you should know. Joe Manson had his tire slashed on Christmas Eve, and it wasn't by a jilted lover.
Are you going to cry about this one, too?
No. He thinks the woman caught on camera puncturing the tires is a sex worker. He believes it was retaliation for his work with Clean Up Kennedy, a neighborhood campaign aimed at shutting down the illicit massage parlors around them. The tire slashing took place 3 days after the Tampa City Council voted to move ahead with an ordinance designed to target illegal sex acts at these parlors. Rosemary is best known for her role on the Dick Van Dyke Show, has died. She is 94, was 94 years old. And Steven Stamkos scored 2 goals as the Lightning beat the Canadiens 3-1 last night. They are now 27-7-2. That is stuff you should know for Friday, December 29th. Let's see here. The flurries that's got everybody talking here in the Bay Area. Let's talk about that a little bit. It ain't happening.
No?
Well, it is a long shot, but that's not what will be spreading through our community today. Spreading through our community today, because of the way they write these headlines, is, oh my gosh, it could snow next week. It could snow here in the Bay. It could snow. What would it take? According to ABC Action News, if the rain/snow line is south of Tampa Bay and the precipitation is on top of Tampa Bay, see the model below. Okay, well, so fair enough, because I want you to be able to see the models that I can see. Then they're saying we have a shot. So let me show you what they're saying. Listen, if it snows or if it flurries here, it would suck. It wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, it'd be so cool. We get a couple inches of snow on the ground. It would be just wet, cold. By the time it hit the ground, it would have melted. So here we go. That's the model they're talking about there, and that's the rain-snow line. If it drops to below Tampa there, then we are obviously in that little cone, and who knows what's going to happen. Shay says that if the model was forecasting for today, she would give us a 10% chance of a few flurries. So that's where we are right now. A 10% chance of a few flurries. And going back to us talking about poker a little bit earlier, when it comes to percentages, if you have a 10% chance of hitting your card, the card that you need in order to win the pot, you're not going to put your money into the pot. That is a low percentage, because what? That means there's a 90% chance that what you want to happen is not going to happen. Both meteorologists do caution that since it is still a week away, the model will certainly change, but it is completely possible. Tampa has seen snow before. The last time it snowed in the Bay Area was January 19, 1977. So I guess it did, because I'm from Orlando originally, and we had flurries it was the Christmas of 1989, but I guess that year it didn't move far enough south to get Tampa. Maybe, just maybe, the rain-snow line will dip further south and give us a real chance to see a few flakes next week. At a minimum, it'll be a couple of very chilly days around here by our Florida standards. Think snow. No, don't think snow. We can't handle that kind of stuff. We're not equipped with that kind of stuff. We have our own Florida ice that we have to deal with. Florida ice, for those of you not from Florida, is what happens usually in the summer, not the winter. And when you get just a little bit of rain on the roads, and because of all the oil and whatnot that are already on it gets this little film and makes things very slick, and so things can suck very quickly on the roads in Florida. Well, I guess as a dad, that'd be kind of fun for you if you had your little girl next Thursday, And
that would be pretty amazing. I mean,
again, you'd have to Simba her. You just stick her up like this as the flurries hit her face, and then melt, and that would be it.
Right.
Apple, like we were talking about, apologizing for these slow speeds. So let's break that down a little bit, going to the LA Times in their business section. The announcement, along with an apology, came less than 2 weeks after the company said that in order to prevent iPhones with aging batteries from drawing too much power and abruptly shutting down, it issued software updates to what they call smooth out the power flow. Such smoothing can cause apps to launch more slowly and otherwise hinder the device's performance. Since last week's announcement, iPhone owners have filed at least 10 class action suits. Holy crap. It'll be interesting to see how those play out. Saying the company's choice to keep quiet about that software led them to buy newer, more expensive iPhones instead of just replacing the batteries. Some accuse the company of fraud. Depending on how these lawsuits play out, we could a lot of people could benefit from this. Because if the courts find that there is merit to these lawsuits, then they're going to go and say, hey, listen, everybody who bought an iPhone between this time and this time, because you say, yeah, the only reason I bought one because my phone was slowing down, I thought I had to.
This is going to be a massive problem. I mean, this is really the beginning of this for Apple. Because France apparently has a law in place where you cannot design something to become obsolete, which is essentially what they've been doing, I think, probably since the inception of the iPhone. But they're basically, I guess, as the way the law reads, I mean, you can't design something to become obsolete even years after it's been purchased.
Now, Apple is pushing back on this. They say, quote, we have never and would never do anything to intentionally shorten the life of any Apple product or degrade the user experience to drive consumer upgrades. We'll have to see. There better not be any emails. There better not be, any kind of a trail at all, digital or paper. It won't be paper. A digital trail at all, where you find anybody behind the scenes at Apple going, oh, this is going to be great for us. You can slow things down. Look what happened when we slowed things down in April of 2011. There was an uptick of 700,000 units sold. You know what I mean? You find something like that, then Apple is screwed. And the last that I saw, they were they were up there, number one.
Yeah.
I think the biggest corporation in the world, right? The last I looked. And if they're not number one, they're number two or number three. They're right there. But if there is any merit to this, this is going to cost them big. Because you better believe there's going to be so many people that you're like, yeah, that was me. Because we all did. Every single one of us will be affected. That's $200, $300, $500, $600, $700 a pop there, depending. Starting in early January and lasting through December of next year, Apple said it will charge only $29 to replace the battery of an iPhone 6 or later. Wait, an iPhone 6 or later?
Yeah, that's what I have.
Which means 6, 7, 8.
6, 7, 8, and 10.
Okay, not 6, 5, 4, 3. Okay.
Right.
That's $50 less than the current price of a battery replacement. It also said it would release a software update that enables iPhone users to see whether their batteries...
But it's not like they're giving it to you at a cost. That's the problem. And again, we're both iPhone users, and the issue with this is, okay, fantastic. So you admit that there's a battery problem. Mind you, I swapped out my battery probably about 3-4 months ago. The battery is not the reason for the performance issues. It's the software. And they're not giving you the battery at cost. They're still making a profit on the battery, so they're basically admitting, hey, the problem is you do have a problem with your battery,
right,
in addition to the software, but we're going to give you a discount on the battery because you're probably going to want to go swap it out anyways.
It also said that it's going to release a software update that enables iPhone users to see whether their battery's condition is affecting the performance of their phones. You think that would already be on there, so you can keep an update on your energy use. Apple has grown reliant on iPhone sales. The device accounts for well over half the company's revenue. It still doesn't make me want to switch to anything else. Doesn't make me want to go to a Samsung.
It doesn't. It's frustrating. I mean, it's kind of like owning a German car. It's like, it's a phenomenal piece of machinery. It's a lot of fun to drive. But damn it, you're going to get pissed when it's going to cost you, $2,000 or $3,000 to make a repair.
Yep. Got a couple of dog stories. I'm going to start with a horrible one, and then we'll go to a good one, okay?
All right.
No, man, because this is just effed up. Dog found frozen solid on a central Toledo porch. The Toledo area,
in Ohio.
Yep, Ohio is investigating the death of a dog in central Toledo who was found frozen solid on a porch. The female dog had died after curling up on the front porch of the house. Quote, "I don't know how long she was out there," says Megan Brown, the cruelty investigator with the Humane Society. "She was found frozen solid." So then, of course, you first start reading the story, and I'm sure if you're listening, your blood starts to boil a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, let me find the SOB who's responsible for this. So they said Miss Brown said an underweight male dog was inside the house. She saw him through a window and seized him that afternoon after obtaining a search warrant. He was visibly shivering inside the house, she said. So contacted by The Blade, which is the newspaper out of Toledo, on Thursday afternoon, Victor Vallejo Sr., 40 years old, said the dogs are his and said he was unaware of any issues. He said he last saw them 2 or 3 days ago and left them both inside. The utilities to the house were recently shut off, however. So I'm ready for this guy to die, right?
Yeah.
I am, this just can't happen. He says, quote, "I wasn't staying there, but I was going back and forth and feeding them. They had plenty of food and water. I've been staying here and there at the moment. I kind of fell on some bad times." Then I'm like, son of a, damn it. He said they were both American bullies, which of course makes me think that this was written in England. What the hell? Who says American bullies? The 3-year-old female was named Nanas, while the 4-year-old male is Hayes. He said he loves his dogs, paid a lot of money for them, and intended to breed them. Okay, so these were moneymakers for you, prick. Mr. Vallejo said he isn't sure how Nanas got outside. "I don't know how they could have got out. Everything was locked up tight." He said neither dog has, they said that neither one of the animals had food or water. And there were blankets and pillows on the porch, which had a roof, but no shelter from the bitter temperatures. This makes me so sad, man, because we love our animals so much, like our children, and to think that little female pit bull was just getting colder and colder and colder, and just curled up on the porch with no place to go, and just in a little ball, just sat there and died.
Yeah.
And then froze solid because of this prick. I'm sorry. I don't. That's not fair.
It's one of those things that you see as unfathomable, right? Because you really cannot put yourself in any kind of situation where you think that this would happen to you. But we see it even all the time with children. We see it here in Florida every summer when you've got parents after parents after parents who leave their kids in their car with the windows rolled up and completely forget that they have a child in the back seat. As someone who has had a child in the back seat for the past 2 years, I can't wrap my head around how something like that happens, but yet it does.
All right, so that's the horrible dog story, okay? Now let's get to one that makes you feel a little bit better inside.
Thank goodness.
And it is a loyal dog that wouldn't leave his... Now, this also includes death. But listen...
Jesus, Fisher.
Death is a part of life. It's part of everything. But so here we go. An abandoned dog that captured the interest of Liberty County residents through social media because it would not abandon its dead body now has a new home. For close to a week, the dog's plight was shared on Facebook by people who were concerned that it might suffer the same fate as its friend and be hit by a car and die from exposure in the wintry weather. Photos were circulated that showed the dog maintaining his watch over his buddy's body for a week. As the week wore on, more passerbys noticed the dog and tried to intercede, most dropping off dog food and water, one leaving a doghouse for him to live in. Every report shared online, it did the same, with no one able to capture the dog to take him into safety. So let me go ahead and pull up a picture of this little guy here. He's not a small boy, and I could see it would be difficult to get close to him.
He's a real boy.
What we got here? There he is. There's the guy right there. So,
look at that face.
Look at that face. He would let us get near him, but we couldn't catch him. He just wouldn't leave his friend's side. He just stayed there. He would sniff at him like he was trying to say, "Get up." After 30 minutes of coaxing the dog to come to them, the woman gave up. Quote, we made sure he had food and left. Later in the day, we thought we would try one more time. We walked up this time, and he was acting like, okay, this time I'm going to go with them. We sat down on the ground, and he got close enough to Chloe where she could grab his paw. Then Madison just walked up and picked him up and carried him to the Jeep, and we took him home. He still didn't want to leave his friend, though.
Well, it's like, you know, like the what is it, a keto or that Japanese tale,
right?
You know, that where the dog used to follow his owner to the train station every day. You know, I mean, that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, a great story. He'd follow his owner to the train station every day, and then sit there on the platform, wait for his owner to get home, and then walk back. Well, one day the owner doesn't come back home. I guess he died at work, or how? Do you remember the details of that part of the story?
Of what the
did he die at work or while he was away? So the owner never came home.
Right. Correct.
And then the dog stayed on that platform, or went back to that platform like every single day for the rest of its life,
waiting for the owner to come back.
and then that dog dies. And then that dog dies, and they make a statue, right?
They immortalize him.
Yeah, they immortalize and put a statue there. Wow, I love dogs. The women said that they were concerned that time was running out for the dog, as another round of brutal weather was expected to hit southeast Texas over the weekend. We were also concerned about him getting hit by a car. People fly down that road. For now, the dog is living with the family, though she is keeping open the possibility of someone adopting the dog. We are calling him Toby. He seems to have adjusted well to his new environment and is getting plenty of food and love. And that amazes me. You know, animals are supposed to be a little bit different when it comes to stuff like that. But he stayed with his dead friend, his pack.
Sure. Yeah.
What is that? I guess we could speculate all day long. We really don't know what that means.
That's the most heartbreaking part about the other story that you just said, because I think what ties them together here is the loyalty and the fact that dogs are loyal to the end. I mean, you see dogs who are abused by their owners who are still loyal to them, and this dog sat outside that house and froze to death. This dog, stayed by his friend's side despite the fact that he had passed. Dogs can sense. They know that he knew his his friend had passed. Right, because they can hear the heartbeat, they can smell the dog's deceased, and yet he couldn't get over the fact that his friend had passed.
We were talking about this last week too, weren't we?
Yeah,
elephants.
That's right.
The amazing videos of how elephants seem to mourn their dead as well. How different, how separate from all the other species on the planet do you put us humans, Johnny?
I think it's very little. And the more we get to learn and understand animals, I think we'll find that we're more similar than we've ever realized. And again, it just takes research and it takes understanding, and I think that's why you see people like more and more start to attach themselves to all kinds of animals, because they realize, again, like people are now realizing how smart pigs are. And how in many cases pigs made for great pets. And there's even a friend that I met, recently. She has a pet chicken. And so I think we're realizing.
I can't believe how cool chickens are. Did I tell you about this, when how my in-laws had to take care of one of their neighbors' chickens while they were away? And they've got like 30 chickens. It's not like they have 2 or 3 chickens. They have like 30.
Wow.
And so it's a whole process. But I don't know chickens.
Yeah.
I did not know. Like, they all have their own little personality. They're the coolest little things. They come running. They made me feel like the same way that my dog makes me feel when I come home. Because when you come running up, they know you got the food.
Oh, yeah.
You're not walking over to their area unless you got something. And so they come running up, and they all, I guess, I just thought the chickens were chickens, just birds. But they seem to all have their own little personality as well. I can understand how somebody could have a pet chicken.
Sure.
If you could have any pet exotic animal, what would it be?
An exotic animal?
Or any animal on the planet. Which, it doesn't matter if it's exotic or not. But you're not your typical domesticated animals.
I would say probably some sort of primate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he'd be my buddy.
Yeah. Or, to be cliche, maybe like a panda or a koala. Although I've heard koalas are vicious.
Oh, yeah?
That's the rumor.
Not pandas, though. Not pandas.
Nah, man. Pandas are the bomb.
That'd be cool. Or if I had the right, infrastructure in the back.
Yeah.
A seal. I think a seal would be a cool, kind of cool.
So just want to jump over to the comment section. Good morning to Teresa Marguerite. Good morning and Happy New Year to you. Jonny Tressler checking in from Lecanto. Where is Lecanto? Is that even in Florida?
Yep.
So good morning to Jonny checking in from Lecanto. Our good buddy Cords watching as always. And
here's your Lecanto.
Lisa Kraft. Where's Lecanto? Hold on.
Right here. You got Crystal River, Homosassa Springs.
Oh, okay.
All
right. So it's one of your fans.
There we go.
The local. Yeah, very cool.
A little north.
Nice. Yeah, it's up there, but that's very cool. So thank you for letting us know. We should start asking people where they're listening from. I think that'd be fun. Because again, like we've had my friend Mariella, who is originally from Miami. She and I went to high school together, but she has since relocated to Japan. And so she catches the show from time to time because, again, it's in a more reasonable time slot in Japan than it is here.
Let's see, man. We know next.
Right?
What's that?
No, I'm just checking my camera angle.
Next week is our last week with Jonny Torres.
Oh.
For those of you that didn't hear the announcement earlier in the week, he's got a job offer, one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, and will be going to work for Senator Marco.
Well,
Polo.
You know what's funny that you say that because one of the guys here at Bake More Pies, who he works remotely, but he lives nearby in like Sarasota or Venice or something like that. But he was saying how for a long time his wife thought that he was Irish because she thought that his name was Mark O'Rubio.
Oh, that's funny.
And I actually have a T-shirt from his last campaign that says like our favorite Irishman, Mark O'Rubio, and so it's a common mistake. But just real quick, because now we got people chiming in on where they're listening from. So Tim Hartle's checking in. Hello, Tim Hartle.
Tim.
And Lisa, I didn't know Lisa's in Knoxville, Tennessee. How cool is that? She listens. She watches the show often. I don't know if she's in Knoxville, Tennessee every day she listens, but she is today, so that's very cool.
All right. I love these stories. They always end up being controversial. I guess around the country, you have law enforcement agencies who are using their Facebook page, and they'll post some of the incidents that they're involved in, and sometimes make little snarky comments, little jokes.
Right.
I think it's great. I love it.
I do. I think it adds character, personality to the department.
But a lot of people feel like it's inappropriate and, law enforcement shouldn't be. No. So here's one of those stories coming out of Florida. Alachua County. A Florida Uber driver is facing a felony grand theft charge after police say he was spotted driving a stolen $250,000 Ferrari.
That's the way to do it.
You're going to do it. Might as well go big. His name is Hilburn J. Brendan Hunkins.
He sounds like he could afford $250,000 car.
If your name's Hilburn, you think.
What is it? Hilburn what?
Hilburn J. Brendan Hunkins, the fourth. Might as well throw in the fourth. 26 of Kissimmee was pulled over around 8:30 a.m. on Thursday when officer noticed a black 2017 Ferrari, California, with stolen plates driving slowly beside a high-end red Corvette. So I guess because if he was driving slowly, I'm assuming he was taunting the guy. Like, all right, let's go, buddy.
Yeah.
I've got a Ferrari.
Trying to get him. Yeah.
I've got a Ferrari. You've got a Corvette.
Quarter mile. Let's do it.
Let's do this. Hunkins told the officer that the Ferrari he was driving belonged to a friend. So the officer said, "Oh, what's your friend's name?" He goes, "I don't remember." "What's your friend's phone number?" "I don't recall."
But if that ever happens to me, you can bet I'll be using your name.
Please do. Hunkins was pulled over and told the officer that the Ferrari belonged to a friend, but could not name the friend or give a phone number. The Gainesville Police Department poked fun at the arrest with the satirical Facebook post. The post began with "pro tip," followed by the
I love pro tips.
I love this. Followed by the list of advice. Here we go. And this is this is from their Facebook page. Number 1, don't steal stuff. It's just not nice. Number 2, their pro tip, certainly don't steal a $250,000 2017 Ferrari California. especially when the window sticker is still on it. And that's what you see in this photo. Is that he never even took the window sticker off. It was still on there. So that's what he should. He just sort of said, I'm test driving this thing.
Now, look, in all fairness, if I bought a Ferrari, I would probably leave the sticker on it for a while.
Good point. Number 3, if you are going to steal a $250,000 Ferrari with the window sticker still on it, don't drive next to a Gainesville, Alachua County drug task force vehicle with a license plate reader.
Oh.
Number 4, the 18 MPG is incorrect. So you notice on here, this is where they throw in a joke.
Yeah.
And you notice that the Ferrari gets 18 MPG. Number 4, the 18 MPG is incorrect. We were only able to get 10 MPG out of it when we drove it to the station. I love it. And then number 5, number 4 is a joke. We had it safely towed for the rightful owner. They have to put that stuff because, in all due respect to my fellow citizens, there's too many stupid people.
Yep.
There's too many stupid people, morons, and a-holes out there that you have to put it in there.
Speaking of which, I got well, in my opinion, it's kind of an a-hole story, but go ahead.
Lastly, Hunkins was arrested on a charge of grand theft, property valued at $100,000 or more, and booked in Alachua County. So to your a-hole story?
Yeah, well, on that story, Cords chimes in and says that would be Uber red and blue. Would be
Uber red and blue, well done.
Yeah. All right. So this is completely off script, but it caught my eye this morning on Facebook. Okay, and this is someone that we both know somewhat. I don't know how well you know this individual, but I think you know him, and I've met him a couple times. So this the person that I'm talking about, let me just come out and spit it, is Brendan McLaughlin. He was a longtime reporter, journalist here in the Tampa Bay area.
Right.
Still lives here in the Tampa Bay area.
Right.
Very respected journalist. He's a top-notch guy. Decided to take a break from news television. Again, nice as can be. Don't have anything against him personally. Recently, he was harping on the GOP tax reform bill, right? Criticizing it about how it lines the pockets of rich people and how it doesn't benefit the middle class or the poor and that sort of thing. Kind of your typical leftist rhetoric.
Right.
And what pissed me off this morning, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it's got me so fired up, is that meanwhile, this guy will go on a whim and go down and blow probably a couple $1,000s on a nice little 3-4 day vacation in Havana, Cuba.
Okay.
And so my gripe with this is that if you're going to sit there and lecture about how the unfair economic policies of this administration or even this country as a whole, I don't think that you deserve the right to make that criticism when you go down and you support a communist regime that has killed, murdered hundreds of thousands of people, that impoverishes people, that imprisons people for their political opinions, and meanwhile come back and ride your high horse and talk about how our economic policies are unfair to the lower and middle class.
All right.
Hold on a second. I had to whip it out for the...
Whip it out. Excuse me while I...
Well, if you're
whip this
listening
out.
only, yes, that sounds incredibly inappropriate, but but it pisses me off, and this is the kind of bullshit that that Republicans and conservatives get angry about when it comes to the media. Again, this is a guy very respected, very fair, right, by all appearances when he was on television here in the market. But he goes on and on Facebook, he goes out and he criticizes the president for his economic policies, but then goes and supports a communist regime that is legitimately oppressing people and legitimately oppressing the media and legitimately oppressing free speech, and then then wants to come back and put himself on his little soapbox and lecture us about how awful our president is and our tax policies are.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that one. I don't have enough information, and as far as the tax plan goes itself, he was talking to getting some good advice from our viewers, and I was talking to Tom, and he watches almost every morning, And one of the things that he brought up, he's like, you guys talk about so many interesting things, but I keep waiting for you to bring in an expert, so like you and I will be talking about the tax plan like this, which is all well and good, but you and I aren't experts in that. And he's like, man, so if you guys just went to, and all right, so now we're going to bring in somebody that's going to try to break this down for us. He goes, that would be, so much better.
I agree.
I agree as well, but I even, here's the problem though. Johnny, you're like me. You sit there and you watch the news of the day. How many experts have you seen that fall on different sides of this?
Sure.
I have experts out there going, oh, this is going to be good for America. It's going to do. Then you have an expert going, oh, this is going to be horrible for America.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Yeah.
You just listen to the people that are ideologically aligned with you, and then whatever they say you go with.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're going to bring in the people that you have access to in your network. And so for me, I would have the ability to bring in, let's say somebody from Americans for Prosperity, right? Which is a Koch brothers funded organization who is in favor and spend a lot of money and resources in seeing this tax reform bill passed. Of course, they're going to come in and praise it.
Right. Then you get somebody on the other side. They're going to come in and tell you just how this is going to ruin America.
Right.
So this is the way I look at it. I have no control over what happened and what is getting ready to transpire as far as the economics of America. So I'm not going to stress over it. And I guess I'm going to have we'll wait and see. I guess we'll wait and see whether or not this ends up being really good for us or not so good for us.
No, and I approach almost every issue like that. You can't get worked up over things that you have no control over, right? And so,
but that's what we do, man.
But your action in this situation was voting, right? You voted. You didn't vote for the guy who's in power. I did, right? And so that's as much as we can do. Next to that, the only next thing you could do is that if you're in opposition to policies like this, is that you reach out to your senator or your congressman and you hope that maybe they're actually listening to what you have to say and you may be able to sway their opinion on it. And look, it may sound like an impossible thing, but it happens. Any legislator would tell you that they've changed their mind on a particular subject at one point or another because they were shown reason to change their mind. So there are good legislators out there that will change their mind.
Isn't that few and far between? Isn't that few and far between? Because
on most issues,
for the most part, they have to, because they have their constituents like me calling or going, "Hey, man, I don't like this," but they have the party leaders telling them which way they want them to vote. Now, they don't always have to follow, or they don't always follow their party leaders.
No.
But they know that if they don't follow the party leaders, then they are chancing not getting any support, any funding for their next campaign.
Well, and it's not just the party leadership, but it's also whether or not what you're advocating for falls in line with their principles or the platform of the party that they're from. And so, again, there are issues that are kind of in the gray area. And so let's say medical marijuana, which is one that we've talked about here, right? More and more, it's becoming a gray area in terms of it being a partisan issue. And so if you lobby or you reach out to a legislator enough and give them enough reasons for
I'm calling you every week.
it, or then you may be able to sway that vote if he hears from enough constituents.
Is town hall considered conservative or liberal?
Yes.
Do you know? Conservative? Okay.
Yep.
So I clicked on town hall, which is considered a conservative website, and their headline is "Misplaced Anger and Hope." Misplaced anger and hope over tax reform. New York Post columnist shared his reasons why the tax reform package just passed and signed into law by the president remains so unpopular. For perspective, he references the popularity of the previous tax cuts by Reagan, Bush, and their extensions under Obama. And yet they enjoy a mere 32% approval rating, while widespread disapproval still lingers. Why the misplaced anger about Trump's tax reform package? It's interesting they call it Trump's tax reform. Did Trump have anything at all? Did he write one line in this at all?
No, I
Or
mean
having-
there were yes, there are parts of it that were advocated for,
Okay.
or on behalf of the administration. So the corporate tax rate,
Okay. The corporate tax rate stuff.
the
trying to
child
get the money.
tax credit. He was a part of Ivanka
Okay.
campaigned with Marco for that particular. So there are elements of this bill that did come directly from the administration, and he gets obvious credit for it for signing it into law as well, and so which he doesn't have to do. He could easily have vetoed it.
So this article talks about how they're reading an expert or a column from one expert, and says that the person opposes the cuts because of deficits in national debt. And then you have somebody else on the other side. They said the reading concluded that the cuts will spur economic growth, tax revenue, and cover the deficit. So what is the reality? What is the truth? I don't know. No idea.
This is what I think is going to happen. Did the tax reform plan add money add money or add debt to the deficit? Absolutely. Because they haven't determined exactly where the revenue is going to come from. Or I hate using the term revenue because they're not making money. It's other people's money. But they haven't figured out how to pay for all the tax cuts, right? What is coming up right now, what we're facing is, again, you're going to hear government shutdown a lot because they haven't approved a new budget. Early next year, we're going to see a new budget, and that's where it's going to get ugly because they are going to start negotiating budget cuts. And when they implement these budget cuts, that's how you make the math add up between the deficit from the tax reform bill and the annual budget.
John, this is one of the things that frustrates me so much about our national politics is that people on each side of the aisle pretend or believe that their party stands for certain things, which I don't know that they actually do. We were looking pretty good. Our coffers were looking pretty good entering the 2000s. Immediately, a Republican president starts. Now, granted, 9/11 happened, and you can say that kind of stuff was justified or whatever. But the next thing you know, we're trillions of dollars in debt. Obama comes into office. The savior comes into office, and at that time, the economy collapses. 08, 09. And so for me, this is what's so frustrating. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I'm no party affiliation. But to watch then a sitting president, instead of doing what was right to turn the economy, to save the economy, he uses the capital that he has to strap onto the backs of Americans, Obama, essentially what we call Obamacare.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not, and by the way, for those of you that are getting ready to fill up the comments and yell at me, oh, what are you against? Are you a heartless son of a bitch that is against, making sure that people are covered? No, not at all. As a matter of fact, during those times and even now in my brain going, all right, how do you get everybody covered and not bankrupt the GD country? I am a compassionate person, but there's the ideology of making sure that everybody lives happily ever after, and then the reality of trying to make that kind of stuff happen. So It was frustrating to me to watch Obama come in and where he should, that the administration at the time should have focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is getting the economy back to, I don't want to say back to where it was. That's stupid, but basically back on the road to getting that deficit back down to zero. And making sure that we are, fiscally solvent here in America.
Yeah.
But instead, he continues, and he wants to make sure that, I'm being cynical here. He wants to make sure that he has a legacy, that he'll be put up there with FDR, because he was the guy that was able to put this big piece of shit on the back of the American, economy,
right,
and drive the economy even more south. Now, some of you are getting steamed right now because there are a lot of experts saying that the moves that Obama made saved us from even, from a depression, I guess. But I don't know that that's true. And so now you have this the Republicans are back in control. So you almost kind of expect that from Democrats anyway, right? They're going to try to get more social programs on there and all that.
Yeah, so look, at the end of the day, it is factually accurate to say that Obamacare was the largest tax increase in American history.
Okay. So then you get a so-called Republican, which he's not a Republican. Let's not forget that, people. He might look like it might be on paper, but he's not a Republican. He's an independent at best. So then you get the Republican Party back in control. And so does the Republican, but the so-called fiscal responsible party get in there and go, okay, listen, this is going to be a little tough, but we got to get America back on track fiscally. And we're going to do that. Oh, no. They're going to do the same thing and throw another minimum of $1 trillion on top of the debt that's already there. And so it doesn't stop. And then this is where I come back. I'm sorry for getting off on politics on this Friday morning. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for getting off on politics this morning. But this is what frustrates me.
I'd like to think, as again, someone who has worked directly and indirectly to get a lot of these people elected, I believe that a lot of the tax cuts that are going to come and really kind of level things out are coming early next year. There is going to be a budget passed. They're going to want to pass a budget because they're going to need that type of political
they need to, by law.
Currency. Well, no, actually, they're not beholden to pass a budget. And they're going to want that political currency going into the midterm elections.
Oh, I guess you're right. They don't have to.
Florida does. Florida has to pass a balanced budget.
Okay, but not the national government?
No.
Huh. The federal government? So Jimmy Carter wrote a piece a couple of years ago talking about the federal government and what it has become. And it has become a machine of oligarchies to get in there, you get your foot in there, and then you keep it in there. And for the rest of your days, you can take care of yourself, your family, your friends, and the people around you. And to read that piece, and he's not talking about just one party either. He's talking about what Washington has become. And this is why so many people, usually on the right, are so anti-government. It's not because those people are, don't have any compassion and don't want social programs for people. The way that a lot of people see it is that the government is just somewhere between inefficient and nefarious, somewhere between inefficient and just downright bad. That the so-called bigger government, again, these tend to be Democrats, liberals, but that's not even true. That's not even true. I'm sorry that I'm buying into the same BS that these parties give us every. You know what? The Republicans have showed me nothing in the last couple of decades.
You're right.
To say that they are the party of fiscal responsibility and personal responsibility.
No, look, George W. Bush came in and spent quite a bit of money, during his administration. I mean, some of it was due to the war. Some of it was due to the beginning of the housing crash, and so it's one of those things that you're not going to be hitting 500 every single time, or 1,000 every single time, and that's the one critique that many grassroots Republicans have against the Bush family is that if you kind of go back and deconstruct their administrations, they really weren't as consistent as people would have liked with the Republican principles.
So we are counting on you, Johnny. all of us that are associated with the show, all of us that are watching every single morning and have got to know you and like you over the last 6 weeks, now that you're leaving the show to go work for the government, I'm counting on you to make sure that you will wrangle your party and keep them on and get them back to where they allegedly once were, and that is the party of fiscal responsibility and personal responsibility.
I will crack that whip.
All right, Johnny, you get on it. And I know I feel like we can't even segue into what I had next, which is
just hard left.
No, it's not. It's still politics. It's Trump. Okay. It's a Trump tweet.
Of course it is.
But that has a tendency to send any show sideways once you start getting into Donald Trump's tweets. So Donald Trump took to Twitter. And I try not to let some of the stuff that he does, provoke me. I try to go, if I start to get worked up, I'm like, stop. I don't have control. Let me just focus back on what I have control over and not let this provoke me at all. So it's freezing right now in America. There are some record temperatures being set, low temperatures, and so on and so forth. So this mental giant tweets, in the East, it could be the coldest New Year's Eve on record. Perhaps we could use a little bit of that good old global warming that our country, but not other countries, was going to pay. We could use a little bit of that global warming that our country, but not other countries, were going to pay trillions of dollars to protect against. Bundle up. So the sitting president of the United States of America doesn't even know the difference between weather and climate. Now, I expect, in all due respect, I know the people that are watching us, I do expect them to somewhat have a grasp that, or at least know that there's a difference between climate and weather, but maybe not. I think the average person is probably just like this. Climate and weather are the same. But I expect the leader of my country to open up Wikipedia or ask a 5-year-old, a 5th grader, before you send out pure ignorance, pure, unadulterated ignorance. Now, for those, Mr. President, I'm going to explain I'm going to give you a visualization, all right, a mental exercise, so you can help separate the difference between weather and climate change. And I'm going to borrow this example from, I believe it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, when he was the host of Cosmos. Here's one way to look at it. You're walking your dog down a sidewalk, all right? You get your dog on the leash. The dog keeps running over this way to sniff something and running off this way off the sidewalk to sniff something there, okay? While this is all happening, your dog's going that way and your dog's going this way. You're moving forward. Yes, on the sidewalk, because of the dog pulling you this way, pulling you that, you're on the sidewalk. You might be veering a little bit this way, a little bit that way, but you're on the sidewalk as you move forward. So I guess the parallel here is that the dog is weather, you are climate. The dog, very erratic, one little smell, boom, it's off on one side, off on the other. That's the weather, the day in, the day out. That's why it's so hard to predict. Next week they're talking about how it could possibly snow here in the Bay Area. It is ridiculous to even try to predict that a week out. The 10% chance of that. But as we get closer and we get more information, more data, we can do a better job of predicting the weather. The climate doesn't change like that. The climate stays, stays right in here moving forward. So one is not the other. And it's easier to predict climate stuff because there's less of those erratic, left turns and right turns. Actually, now that I'm hearing myself trying to describe this thing, I realize I'm not doing a great job at all. Probably should have just, I should have pulled up Neil deGrasse Tyson in his video when he was explaining it, but then Facebook would kick us off again for using somebody else's content. So yeah. I guess that's just one way to visualize it: is the weather, the day in, day out. That's the dog on the leash, going, every which way. But climate is you staying on that path, and your variance is much more or less. But all right, so our president is just stoking old fires once again. But I'm not going to get worked up over it. I don't even care anymore. It's not that I don't care. It's that I can't care anymore. Because otherwise, if you stay focused on this stuff, you're going to stay worked up one way. And it doesn't matter if you're on the right side of things and the left side of things. You're just going to get yourself worked up. I mean, even for those people who support or passionately support the president, hate what? What's the one thing that even Trump supporters can't stand? His GD Twitter account. Yeah. Is just please, take it away. All right,
and honestly, if it weren't for his Twitter account, I think he would be having, all right, that and the golfing. He would be having a pretty stellar administration. I think he'd be having a pretty stellar go at it here in year one.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, look at the tax reform bill. He passed significant VA reforms.
All right,
when we had Diego on the show, there's been some controversy, but
the wall stuff.
The wall stuff was campaign rhetoric. There's never going to be a wall. Look, okay. I'll say it into the camera. There's never going to be a wall.
Okay, well, that's not what his base wants.
Oh, it's not what the base wants, but reality. What reality will dictate is that there will not be a wall.
And when we get into the politics, this is the reason I'm bringing up this video right now. This is how it makes me feel. This is why I don't like to get it, because this is how politics makes me feel right here. This is a good. Yeah, it's a Waffle House. They're looking for people in connection. They're looking for all these people, and this is just a Waffle House. And what happened? They started talking about politics, and next thing you know, people are just getting wailed on. Actually, I don't know what happened there. But this is a Waffle House in Ohio, Lima, Ohio, searching for the people seen in the video, get into a massive fight there. One of the things that is fascinating to me is this one dude just wailing on this chick. I don't know that I could hit ever. I don't know. I don't know that I could ever hit a woman.
Yeah, no.
No matter. I mean, they would really.
Unless she's pounding down on me where it becomes a matter of self-defense. At that point, still, my initial instinct will be to defend, to stop her from hitting me.
Right, not to hurt her.
Yeah, and if I still can't stop her from hitting me, at that point, I may just go into self-defense. But, I mean, it would take a long time for me to even consider that.
I've been in that situation once in my life, and like Johnny said, my inclination, which is what I did, was to restrain her, to get her to stop hitting me and throwing stuff at me. But never once was it but I've also seen, because I've been out enough where I'm out in the clubs, the bars a lot over the last 25 years, and you see stuff go down, and a woman get cold cocked, and you're like, well, she deserved it. I saw this go down, and she deserved it. But it wasn't me. It wasn't me that we were in Knoxville, and a group of us. And we come across a woman and a man fighting in a domestic situation, right? Just going at it, and so we step in because this man's significantly bigger than the woman, and it looks like he is more of the. Well, I won't say. Yeah, it looks like slightly he was. Here's the thing: they were both going at it, but you still wanted to step in and save or protect the woman,
of course,
for whatever reason. So, as somebody in our group steps in to say something. The woman, who looks like she was, getting ready to get her ass handed to her, tells us to F off and to mind our own GD business.
Oh, okay.
As she's shaking her purse at us, which is a little rebel flag purse, Confederate flag.
Of course it is.
And not only that, but these two are going at it in a church parking lot. It was just such a great white trash scene. My point being this. It wasn't like we were going to step in, and then she goes, thank you so much. This was getting out of control. She was just as much about whatever domestic situation was going on in that moment, and we were to mind our own damn business, no matter what was getting ready to go down between those two. Huh. So we left her and her Confederate flag purse behind and kept walking. Don't know what happened to the woman. Nice. Great story, Fish. Great way to end the show. All right. Well, I think that is going to be it for us today. Unless you got some other stuff, sir.
No, man. I think 2018 is going to be an amazing year. What happened?
I'm sitting there trying to close something out on my screen, right? I'm sorry for this. But it's not my screen. It's your screen that's sitting in front of me over here. I'm like, why can't I get my mouse over it to close this off? Oh, never mind, because it's not mine.
Yeah, it typically helps if you're trying to close windows on your own computer.
Yes, it is. I do have a thing for those of you that don't have any plans for New Year's. Join me at Masteries. Blind Pass, St. Pete Beach, starting at 6 o'clock. And we'll do it up. We'll just be there playing the music and having a good time.
If I end up not having my daughter, I think that's what I might end up doing. Because what I really wanted to do, and I'm so mad at myself for not doing it, I wanted to take advantage of the Groupon that came out for Jim Gaffigan. Jim Gaffigan's going to be at the Amalie Arena New Year's Eve. I thought that'd be amazing because he's easily one of my favorite comics. But I sat on it, and now the Groupon's gone, and I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I meet my wife's got a half day today at the courthouse.
Nice.
So we are taking advantage of a Groupon that we have for the Salty Rim out at St. Pete Beach, and we'll be meeting there for a lunch with the dogs this afternoon.
Cool.
I love that Groupon. Thank you so much for being a part of the Wake.Show in 2017. We'll come back with a big year. It's going to be a very somber week next week as we say goodbye to Jonny Torres all week long, and then look for somebody else to fill that slot possibly.
We may have some guest hosts, I think, maybe.
Yes.
All right.
Have a great day, and Happy New Year's.